Hey everyone, in this video I want to show you how to build an app in Django using HTMX to basically accomplish a bunch of things without JavaScript. So let me show you what those are. So what this allows me to do is it allows me to search for a channel using the YouTube API, select a channel, and then get all of the videos on that channel in a certain order. And this progress bar just tells me how long it's taking to generate all of this data because I'm querying this API over and over again. And now we see here on my channel, I have a bunch of videos that are appearing. I can click on the link and it takes me directly to the video. I can see how many views it has, how many likes, and when it was published. And we see it's in order of the number of views. I also have an infinite scroll down here. So as I go down, it loads more results. So it loads 50 at a time. And then once it gets down to the bottom, it stops the infinite scroll. And then also I can just delete one of these videos and it will remove it from the list of channels that I have. So I'm doing this without using JavaScript at all. So that's the point of this video. I want to show you how to do this without JavaScript, even though we have all these things that are dynamic on the front end. This is basically a single page app, but there's no JavaScript at all because I'm using HTMX. In addition to HTMX, I'm using Celery. So that's how the progress bar is done. And with Celery, I have RabbitMQ and Redis to make sure Celery can keep track of the task and the status of the tasks as it happens so I can generate the progress bar. I'm using the YouTube API so I can get this information. And then I'm using Django to build the rest of it. So let me just demonstrate with different channels. So another channel would be something like, it would be tech. Let's just search for tech, see what appears. So let's try this Vertech. It's in a different language, but I'll try that. And then we'll say Python. What channels have Python in their name? So let's try Python here. And then we generate the results. And we see the progress bar. And then we see the results here. We see the channel names and all the information with the infinite scroll. So this is what I'm going to focus on in this video. If you want to learn how to build something like this, follow along. I have the code in the description below so you can get it. I'll have the starting point for the code and then the actual finished product that I make in this video. So if you want to follow along, just take the starting code because I do have some things already. And then the finished code will have everything that I create in this video. So let's get into making this app. Okay, so to begin, let me show you what I have already. First, I have a virtual environment running, and I've installed a few things. I have Django, Celery, Redis, a library called Celery Progress, and I also have requests, so I can send a request to the YouTube API. Next, I have this Docker Compose file. I have two services, Redis and RabbitMQ. The reason why I have those two is so Celery will work well. So RabbitMQ just hosts the list of incoming tasks from Celery, and Redis stores the results of the Celery tasks so I know how much of the task has been done and if it's complete or not. Next, I've already created a Django project called Video Tracker. In here, I have the Celery stuff already, so I'm not going to explain how all this works, but you just need a file like this so you can use Celery. And then also in your dunder init, you need a little bit of code to get Celery to work. But basically, this just integrates Celery into Django because there's not a Celery extension that I'm aware of for Django. But it's just this code that you paste in here is 24 lines, so it's not that difficult. Here in the settings.py, I have created an app already called app. So that's where I'll put all my code. And then I also have the configuration for the Redis backend and the Celery broker. So Celery broker here is just the URL for the RabbitMQ service. And then I have Redis down here for the Celery backend. And then underneath this, I have the YouTube API key. I'm not going to show you it because I don't want you to use my API key. There are limits on it, so I can't show you like I would for other API keys. So that's about it for the things that I have already. So what I want to do is I want to get started on this. So the first thing I think I should do is create the models so I can save the data that I'll be retrieving from the API. So there are a couple of things that I want to retrieve. I want to retrieve the channel data. So like the channel ID, the name of the channel, and any other relevant information. And I also want to store the video data. So the name of the video, the number of views, the number of likes, the date that it was published, and so on. So I'll create a couple of models for this and I'll put them in my models.py file. So the first model that I'm going to create, I'll call this channel. So channel, and it's going to import from modals.model. And then I want the channel name. I want the playlist ID. So what the playlist ID is for YouTube, every channel has a playlist ID, and that playlist has a list of all the videos for that channel. So that's why I need the playlist ID. So it's not an actual playlist. It's just a list of all the videos that a particular channel has released. I'll put the thumbnail URL here. And then finally, I'll put the description. I think this is all I need. So for description, I'll make this a text field. For thumbnail, playlist, and name, I'll make them char fields. So I'll just give them a max length of, let's say, 200. I don't know exactly how long these things will be, but 200 is fine. So now I have the channel model. The other model that I want to create is the video model. So this will hold the data for the videos. So this inherits from modals.model again. And I need the title of the video. So this will be a char field. Let's just say 200. And I'll just copy that for the other ones that need it. I need the number of views. So this will be an integer field. So integer field for this. Let's say likes, integer field. And let's see. I can create links to the videos. So I'll have the YouTube ID. So char field. And then we have max length is 200 again. So this will allow me to create links to the actual video on YouTube. And finally, I want, let's say, the date published. So this will be a date field, and that's it. And then I need to create a connection between these two. So every video belongs to a particular channel. So I can just create a foreign key field, foreign key, and it's going to be channel. And then on delete, we'll say modals.cascade. Okay, so let's go ahead and migrate these. So I should need to migrate the default models first. So let me go into here and Python manage.py migrate. So this should give me the default models, which it does. And then I'll make migrations. And it creates them, and then I just migrated them. So now these two tables are in my database. So now that I have the models out of the way, let me work on the views. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring up the main page. So it's going to generate some HTML, and then I'll be injecting everything into this HTML. So I'll go to views, and before I forget, let me just go ahead and import those two models. So from .models, import channel and video. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to create this index view, and I'm going to return render. And I have this template here that I've created already called index. So let me just open it and show you what it is. So it's just going to be a plain template. I'm using Bulma for the styling. So I have that style sheet imported, and I have the title YouTube video tracker. So let me go ahead and return this. So requests, and then the name of the template is index.html. It's going to take some context. So let me just go ahead and create that, and I'll fill in the context as I need it. So let me create a URL for this. So I'll go ahead and create a new file called urls.py in my app. So urls.py, and I'll just take the urls.py from my project and paste it in here and just make the modifications that I need. So I can get rid of admin. I need path, and for the path, it's just going to be empty because it's the index. And then let me import views. So from dot, so this particular package, import views, and then I want views.index. Okay, so now I can go to my other urls.py, and then I can import include here, and then create another path. It's going to be empty as well because, like I said, it's just going to be on the index. And then I want to include the name of the app, so app.urls, just like that. So now I should be able to run this and see my blank page just to confirm that everything is running. So the server starts, I'll go over here, and I see a blank page. It says YouTube video tracker at the top. So this is exactly what I want. It's running. So now let's start working on some functionality. So the first thing I want to do is I want to give the user the ability to add channels to the database. And what I can do is, let me close out these urls.py file. The first thing I'll think about is I want to be able to show them all the channels that they've added so far. And then if they want to add more, I can show them. So I'll kind of do both of those things at the same time. So let me start by just querying my channel model and getting all of the channels that I have in the database. And of course, I don't have any yet, but this is something that I'll need to do. So channel.objects.all. And what I'll do is I'll just put this in the context. So we'll say channels. Now I can go into the template and I can think about where I'm going to put this channel information. Now, because I'm using HTMX, one pattern that you'll probably see many people use is the idea of having like partials of HTML that will be used by HTMX and by your templates directly. And the reason why you're doing this is because the whole point of HTMX is to return basically partial HTML so it can inject it in certain parts of the page. So by having partials in your templates directory, it makes it a lot easier to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new directory in my templates directory called partials. So partials. And then in here, I'll create the partials that I need. I think I only need a couple for this video, but if I need more, I can simply add them. So inside of partials, I'll create a new file. I'll call this channels.html. Of course, you can call this anything you want, but I'll call it channels.html. And inside of my index, I'll just include it. So to include something, you just type include and then the name of the particular file that you want to include. So channels.html. And before this, I just need to put partials and close out the bracket like that. And in here, I'll just try to put h1 and we see that channel appears. So that works. We're able to include it just fine. And inside of channels, I want a couple of things. So first, I want the search bar that will allow me to search for new channels. And then I also want the section that shows the list of channels. So I'll do both here. So I've written a lot of the HTML already, so I won't spend a lot of time in this video writing HTML. So just know that, but I'll explain everything that is being copy and pasted in here so you understand. So first, I don't need to copy and paste anything. I'll just create a div and I'll give this an ID of, let's say, channel-section, right? So this section will have everything that I need for the channel stuff. So the search and the actual list of channels. And the reason why I'm putting this in a div is because HTMX will eventually target this div and replace the content within it. So every time the channels list changes, I'll be able to replace this with the new channel section, and the updated channels will be reflected on the screen as we'll see momentarily. And now I want to bring in a section for the search bar. And basically, if I just save that and refresh the page, we see I have this search. I'm going to type in something into the search, press the button, and it will search for me. So right now it's a form and it has the default form functionality, but in a moment I'll change this to use HTMX so it works like we want it to work. So in addition to this section, what I want is a place to put the modal so I can see the results. So what I'll do here is I'll just say div ID, and then we can call this like search results. And what's going to happen later is I'm going to inject the modal into this, and the modal will be active as I inject it. So when HTMX replaces this section with the modal that is active, we will see the modal on the screen. And of course, we'll get to that momentarily. And then finally, I want a section for the actual channel results. So it's going to be a loop over all the channels that I've queried from the database, and I'll just display the information for those channels. So this is what the code looks like for that section for the channels. So I'm going to loop over this. So what I'll do here is I'll start with an if statement. I'll say if channels, so meaning I have a list of channels that has at least one element in it, and I'll have an end if down here. And then what I'll do is I'll have an else, and I'll simply say something like no channels found. And this should work right away because it should say no channels found. So no channels found right there, which is what I want. And let's see if I can make this a container just to kind of put it in the right spot. And looking at this, I think it should go in here. So we have the div container. Yeah, so the if statement should go after the article. So let me just replace that. and put the if statement above the article. So here, the article in this case is just the list of channels. Okay, so I think I can take the container out of here and try that again. Okay, so yeah, no channels found. That's exactly what I want. And then in here, it's just going to be a list. So if I go over to views and instead of channels, I just pass in a list of a couple of things. We see 1. So now I just need to put the loop. So for channel in channels, and the in for goes after this article. Now I should see 2 of them, which I do, and I'll replace them with the actual information that I want. So this should be channel.description, and this will be channel.name. Yeah, and then I need the thumbnail URL. So I'll go back to channels here, and then the source for the image right here will be the thumbnail URL. Okay, so I'll go back here and remove this and replace it with channels. So of course we don't have any data in the database yet, so we'll say no channels found, but once we have some channels, we'll be able to see them here. So let's work on that now. So how do I get these channels? Well, what I want to do is I want to search for a channel. So let's say my channel. I want to click this button and I want a modal to appear with the results of the search. So a couple of things need to happen first. Let me create the code for the search results. So call this channel search results.html. So here's where I'll have the code for the search results. And let me just go ahead and bring that in now so you can kind of see. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So it's very similar to what I just created for the list of channels on the main page. The biggest difference, of course, is this will be a modal. So it has the modal classes here from Bulma, and it is active. So whenever I inject this into the page, it's going to appear immediately. And I have the if statement in the loops already, and basically it's the same as in channels. I'll get the information from the results from the API, and I'll just put them in here. So let's work on that now. So to think about what needs to be done is we need to create a view that will search the YouTube API and then return the results as HTML. So HTMX can take that HTML and generate the modal. So in this case, the HTML is this code that I just added here, but of course it's going to be dynamic depending on the channels that I actually search for. So first I can create a view called channel search. And of course it takes in requests, and I'll start the render down here, and it's going to return that partial. So partials/channel search results.html. And it's going to have some context here, and this context will eventually hold the API results. So the first thing I need to do is I need to figure out which channel did the person search for. And the way I can do that is by looking here on the index, or actually channels here on the search bar. And we see for the search, we have the name Q. So HTMX will eventually use that name as a key to specify what channel the person searched for. So I'll just use this Q. And in Django, what I can do is I can say request.get, capital Get, and then I can look for the key Q, and I'll just call this query, and I'll pass this to the API so I can perform that query. Next, I'll construct the URL for the request. So the URL is going to be equal to an F string, and let me just bring in some of the API URL. So this is basically how they all start: googleapis.com/YouTube version 3. And then the particular part of the API that I want to use. So in this case, search. And here for Q, which is the query, I can pass in query just like that. And then I need some additional information. So what I want to search for is I want to search for channels only. So with this search, you can search for videos. So I want to search for channels. So I can say type is channel. And then I need to specify the type of data that I want for the channel. So in this case, it's called a snippet. So part is snippet. So this part is just required for the YouTube API. And then finally, what I want is the API key. So key equals YouTube API key. And actually, I'll bring this in from my settings. So what I can do up here is I can say from Django CONF configuration import settings. And then I can do settings.YouTube API key. And that's just in my settings.py that I didn't show you, but this is the actual API key that I'll be using. Next, I want to perform the request. So I need to import the request library. So import requests. And what I'll do is we'll say response is equal to requests.get. So this is a GET request. We're passing in the URL. The URL has all the information that we need. And then I'm going to get a response, and I want to convert that to JSON. So response.json. And I want to get the items out of it. So the items are just the list of things that gets returned from the API. Let me show you the API. So if I go to search here and list, just kind of shows you what it looks like if I can find it here. Okay, so we have the response. So it has these tokens and the tokens for the pages. We won't use that here, but we'll use that for something else. But the items here are the things that we want. So the items will return the search results, and this is what the search results will look like. We see the snippet here, and then we see some information like the channel ID, the title, description, and so on. So this is the information that we want to get eventually. So if we go back here and we call this something like results, we can pass this to the context. So results just like this. So let me just put a space here. And then if we go to the search results here, we see we're checking for the results and then we're looping over them. So I have three things that I want to appear. I want to have the thumbnail, I want to have the title, and I want to have the description. So let me go ahead and add those. So for the thumbnail, we start with results. So we have an instance of result here. And to get it, we have to go to snippets.thumbnails.defaults.url. And this is just coming from the results. So snippets, thumbnails, and then they have a default as well. So you just don't see that, but there is a default. And then URL. There are other types of thumbnails as well, like different sizes, but we're using default. And then for the title, we'll do something similar. So result.snippet.title. And then for the description, result.snippet.description. All right, so I have those things, and that should be enough to display the search results. So it won't actually allow me to add it yet, but it should be enough to display. So this is where I bring in HTMX to get this to work correctly. So the first thing I need to do to make HTMX work is I need to bring in the script. So the one thing that we need JavaScript for is the actual HTMX library. So let me go over to index.html, and I'll just put this before the closing body tag. So this is what it looks like. This is just from the website. You can go to any CDN that hosts JavaScript libraries and get this. And next, I need to think about the events that I want to trigger this. So if I go over to channels where I have my search, I want something to happen when they click on this search button. And because this is a form, I'm going to use this HTX get. So I have the HTX get here. And what I want to do is I want to send a get request to a particular endpoint. So here I have my channel search, and I want to send a request to the endpoint for this. Of course, I haven't created the URL for this yet. So let me go ahead and create that. So path, and we'll call this channel search. Actually, just one word I like, channel search, and then views.channel search. And then we'll just name this channel_search, channel-search. Okay, so we have this channel search. And then inside of my channels here for the HTX gets, so I'm performing a get request whenever the event for this form is triggered. So URL, and then the URL will be channel-search. Doesn't require any additional arguments here, just the channel search URL. And then I need to think about where I want this to go when I get the results. So this is going to send a request to channel search, which is here. And this is going to return this partial here, which is a modal. So I want to take this modal and I want to inject it into the search results right here. So I can use hx target is equal to search results, just like that, with a hash representing the ID. And I believe that's going to be it for searching and seeing the results. So let's give it a try. So let's go over here, refresh, and I'll search for my channel. So let me just remove the query from here because that was from when the form was having the default behavior. So I'll search for Pretty Printed, hit search, and now I see the search results show up. And we see Pretty Printed is the first one. Someone has a channel called Pretty Printed as well. That's not mine. And then the other results are just random things. And I can't close the modal yet. I'll get to that later. But I can search for another channel. Let's say Google. I believe Google has some official channels. Yeah, so Google, Google Students, Life at Google, and Google Taiwan. And I'm only getting 5 results here. But that's really all I need. If you search for the channel name directly, you're probably going to get it in the first result or the second result. So we see that the search results are working. And like I said, this is pretty straightforward. What HTMX is doing is it's sending a request to this channel search URL. It's passing the Q, which is the value of the input. And then it's taking that Q in the view, sending a request to the API for YouTube that searches, it's getting the results and passing them back to the search results template here. This is a modal that's active. So as soon as I inject this HTML into the page, it's going to display an active modal. If I didn't have this is active, then you wouldn't see anything. Normally, modals need to be activated and deactivated through JavaScript. So this is just a trick that you use in HTMX when you want to display a modal. You inject HTML that has a modal that is active already, and then it will just display on the screen. So now that I'm able to search for these channels, what I want to do is I want to be able to add them to the database. So what I'll do is I'll allow the user to add something to the database by just clicking on the name of a channel, and that will perform a request that will add the channel to the database. Let's go ahead and create the view for this first. So we'll call this add channel. And it's going to take in requests like always. And what I want to do with this is I want to get the channel ID. So I have the search results from the API in the modal, but once I perform a request, like all that information is lost. I mean, I could pass all the relevant information, but what I'll do is I'll just use the API again. So I'm going to pass the channel ID from the front end to the back end, and then I'll query the API using that channel ID again. And then I'll save the information about that channel in the database using the information from the API call. So first I'll start with the URL for the API call. So this is going to be an F string, and I'll just bring in the first part of the URL. Okay, so this time I'm hitting the channels endpoint, and then we need the ID for the channel. So this will be the channel ID. And for this, I'll pass it in a different way. I'll put the channel ID here, and this will just go directly into the URL, which we'll see in a moment. Next, for the data that I want to return for part, I want snippet again, and I also want content details. And then finally, I need the key, so I can just copy this and paste it on the end because it's exactly the same. So this will create the URL for the request to get the information for a particular channel ID. And what I'll do is I'll send that request. So it's going to be similar to this before. So I'll just copy and paste this. So send a request to this URL, get the response, and then I can say result is going to be equal to response.json. I want the items. And for this, you can search for as many channels as you like. Well, up to 50. So it will return a list of items. But since I'm only searching for one, I just want to get the first item in the list. So I'll just get that index directly, and I'll put it in result here. Now I can bring in the channel model, and I want to create a channel based off this. So lowercase channel will be the instance of the channel model, and I want to add the data that I need. So I believe name is what I named it for channel, and then title is for video. So name for the channel is going to be results, and then we have these snippets and the title. So this is just like before. The only difference is the syntax. Here I need the square brackets. In the template, I need the dot notation just because of how the templates work. So now I need the playlist ID. And the playlist ID comes from the content details. So content details. And then inside of content details, we have something called related playlists. And inside of related playlists, we have uploads. So this will give me the playlist that represents all of the videos that a channel has. Next, I want the thumbnail URL, and this will be results, snippet, thumbnails. This should be default, and then URL, just like we have in the templates. We can get the description, snippet, description, and I believe that's it for the fields for the channel. Yeah, so I'll create all of these, and I'll do channel.save. And then what I want to do is I want to return some HTML, right? So HTMX is going to send a request to this view using the channel ID. I'm going to query the API to get the data for the channel, and I'm going to use that to create a row in my database, a channel object. I'll save it. And then what I want to do is I want to return some HTML. So of course, with HTMX, you always return HTML. So what do I want to return in this case? I want to return this, the channel section. So this is what it looks like when it's in the template, and basically it's going to have the search bar like we saw. It's going to have this empty search results, and it's going to have the actual channels. So what does this mean? I'm basically taking the existing channel section and I'm replacing it with this one. So by replacing it with one that doesn't have anything in the search results, the modal is going to go away because I'm not searching for anything anymore. The button is going to, or the input and button are going to appear again. So that's not really a change. And then this is going to run again. So it's going to take the list of channels that I have in the database and generate the list here. And because I now have something in the database, this will actually populate with something. So every time I add a channel, it's going to requery the database for the list of channels, and that new channel is going to be in that list, and the HTML generated is going to have that new channel. So I'll go to views here, and I'll query for those channels. So channels, and then channel.objects.all, and I just want to return a template. So actually I need the context. So context, and here I'll call this channels, just like the name in the template, channels here. So channels, and then I'll return render pass and requests. We need the partials and channels.html, pass in the context, and this will return the HTML that we want. So now let's go ahead and create a URL for this. Let's go to URLs. We'll say add channel. This will be views.add channel, and the name will be add channel. But remember, I'm using that channel ID, so I need to pass it here. So we'll just say channel ID here, and this will generate the URL for adding a channel with the channel ID once I create it here in the template. So let's go over to the partial for the search results. And what I want is anytime they click on the link for the title, it's going to add it to the database. So here I'll put HTMX post. So this could be good, but I'll use post, and I'll need CSRF exempt. Let me just go ahead and do that right now. So here is from Django.views.decorators.csrf import CSRF exempt. So this just means I don't need the CRSF token when I send a post request to this ad channel. And I misspelled something. So views, and now it's working. So now I'll go back to the search results, and for HTMX posts, what I'll do is I'll use the URL for add channel. And this time I'm passing something to the URL, so the channel ID. So I'll take the results dot snippet, and I'll get the channel ID. So capital I, lowercase d, and that will give me the URL for this particular channel when I want to add it to my database. So before I can finish this, I need to set a target for the results, right? So the results of this, let's see, views, it's going to return channels here. So I want to basically replace this channel section. So let me just copy the ID with the results from the view. So I'll go to search results, and I need to put this target somewhere. So I could put target here. So hx target equals channel section, but because this is in a loop, it's going to just generate this over and over again. And since this doesn't change, I can actually lift it up into another part, let's say this top div, and it will apply to everything inside of this div unless I override it with another target somewhere else. So this target will apply to all of the HTML in here, and I can do the same thing with swap. So hx swap, this just means how do I want to replace the target here. So this target is a div, and instead of replacing the inside, I want to replace everything, because if I replace the inside, it's just going to add the div channel section again, and I'll have it twice. So I'll replace the whole thing, and you do that by specifying outer HTML. So now this should be enough to add a channel to the database and then see the updated channel. So let's go ahead and try this again. So pretty printed is the first one I'll search for. I'll click on the link, and now we see pretty printed has appeared here. So now let's search for another channel. Let's say Tech with Tim, search, and I can select Tech with Tim here, and then it requeries the database and injects the things in here. Let's search for one more. Let's say Traversy Media. I'll click on that, and we see it appear. So now I have 3 channels in my database. If I open up my SQLite, let me just create another thing here. So SQLite video tracker, db.sqlite3, and then I can select star from app channel, and I see the data in my database. So I was able to add those 3 channels successfully. Okay, so before we get to the hard part of using Celery to generate the progress bar and everything like that, the first thing I want to do is I want to prepare my home page for the results. So after this include, what I want to do is I want to include another section that will have the results for the videos. And if I haven't generated anything, you'll see the button. Well, the button will always be there, but I can generate this as often as I want. So what I can do is I can create another partial, and we'll call this results table.html, or let's just say results, just like that. It's going to be like the results section. And once again, let me bring in some HTML that I already wrote. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I'm loading Humanize for something that I'll use later. And then we have a button here to generate the results. And then we have a table that will have the list of results here. So I have like channel name, and then I have full result and results, and then I'll put the actual values here, but this is enough to get us started. So inside of index.html, underneath the partial for channels, I can include the section for the results. So partials and then results, right? So if we go to the HTML now, Humanize is not a registered tag library. That's pretty easy to solve. We just need to go to the settings.py and just add django.contrib.humanize. Like I said, we'll use this later, but I'm just preparing for it now. And now if I refresh this, now we see the table and it doesn't have anything in it. And then we have this generate button, which will of course allow us to generate the results, but we'll get back to that later. So I want to start by querying for those results. So if I just go here and I say like videos equals video.objects.all, and then I can pass this in the context. So we'll say results videos, because it's kind of a combination of the videos and the results. Yeah, let's just say results here. So passing these to the context, and then it's going to generate the list. And if I just make this like 1, 2, we should see that we have pretty printed appear a couple times. And like I said, this will be the actual data that we have in the database, but we don't have that data yet, so we can just prepare the code. So now this seems to be a good time to work on the Celery part, where I create a task that will query the API and get all of the results for me, and then allow me to see this progress as it's happening, so I can create a progress bar and we can see it on the front end. So to do this, first thing I'll do is I'll create a file called tasks.py. So this is where I'll have my Celery tasks, and let me just close out some of these until I need them again. And now let me start bringing in the things that I need. So first, from Celery, I want to import shared task, and this is what we'll use to mark a particular function as a Celery task so we can run it. And then from Celery underscore progress dot backend, I want to import something called progress recorder. And the progress recorder will allow me to basically update the status of the APIs. So imagine if I have 1,000 API requests in a loop, so each loop iteration is one API request, then I'll update the progress recorder by 1. So over time, this would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until it gets to the 1,000. So this number will represent how much has been done so far, like how many requests have been sent, since that is the limiting part of this. Next, I'll import my models. I think I need both. So import both channel and video. And then finally, I'll need to import requests because I'm going to send requests. Oh, and I also need to import the settings. So from the configuration, I'm importing settings. So I have the YouTube API key. Okay, so now I want to create a function that is the task that is going to run outside of my web app. So this is going to run in a background process, and I want to be able to get the status of this background process as it's running, but this needs to be set up in Celery so it can run as a background process. So I'll create the decorator share task, and I'll put bind equals true. I need this so I can get a self out of this. So this isn't in a class, but it's going to be getting something that is similar to self by using that bind. So I'll call this get video stats, and it's going to take in self. I want to first query for all the channels in my database, and then I'm going to take all those channels and then query the YouTube API using those channels so I can get the information about the videos for those channels. So the first thing I'll do is I'll say channels equals channel.objects.all, and I'll get all of the channels. And then what I want to do is actually I want to split this into two parts. So the first part is I want to get the number of videos that all the channels have. And then I want to get the actual stats for the videos. So why do I need to get the total number of videos first before I get the video data? Well, the reason is for the progress. I need to know how many requests I'm going to send before I start sending them so I can have an idea of how long it's going to take. So with YouTube, I can send up to 50 videos at a time. So let's say a channel has 1,000 videos. That means I need to send 20 requests to get all 1,000 videos, the data for all 1,000 videos. And I need to know that there are 1,000 videos beforehand, so I know that there are 20 requests. And then each loop, I can just update the progress to be 1/20th. And then as it loops over, like as let's say 10 requests have been sent, that means 50% of the requests have been sent. So I know it's 50% done. So that's basically the idea behind getting the number of videos first and then getting the actual videos second. So to get the videos, I need to construct a string with the channel ID separated by a comma. So what I can do is I can say channel IDs is going to be a join that will add this comma. And then I'll convert the, well, actually, I don't need to convert anything. So channel.playlist ID, because it should be a string. And then this will be a list comprehension. So yeah, this works. So for channel and channels, right? So for channel and channels, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return this playlist ID. And if I set this to a stir, it's going to loop over like that. Well, just to make sure that this channel is a string. It should be a string, but I don't need issues. But yeah, this is going to be basically like a list comprehension. I don't need the brackets, but it works just like a list comprehension. And then what I want to do is I want to send this request. So let me bring in the URL. So URL is going to be equal to this F string. And this time I'm searching for playlists. And then the ID will be the list of IDs. So in this case, it's channel IDs. And then the part that I want will be the content details. So part equals content details. And then the key is going to be the same as this. So let me just copy this. The key for the task or for the API call will be the same as what's in the views. So and key equals settings.youtube API key. And then I can send the requests. So response equals requests dot get and then the URL. And what I want to do is I want to kind of figure out how many requests I have to send. So the way I can do this is I can say total requests is 0. So it starts off with 0. And I'm going to loop over the results. So for item in, let's say response JSON and then items. So this follows a similar pattern to the other responses for the API. What I want to do is I want to get the number of videos. So item, content details, and then item counts. So this represents the number of videos in the playlist. So like if this is 1,000, then we know we need 20 requests. If it's 100, then we know we need 2, right? So what I want to do is I want to divide this by 50. So I can send up to 50 requests or 50 IDs at a time. So 50 video IDs for the playlist. I want to divide by 50 because I can get 50 results at a time. So if this is 1,000 divided by 50, I get 20. I want it to be an integer. I don't want it to be, decimal. And I'll just add 1. So like if we have 49, then we do 49 divided by 50 will give you 0 when it's integer division. And then we plus 1 will give us 1 request. And then it basically follows a pattern for all of them. And this needs to be converted to an integer. And then I'll just take the total requests and increment it by whatever this is. So like I said, if this is 2,000, then it will divide by 50. It will give me 40 and then plus 1, so 41. So for this particular channel, it gives me 41 requests. So if the first channel has 1,000 and the second channel has 2,000, then I'll end up with 21 plus 41 requests. So that's 62 requests. So I need this, like I said before, so I know how much progress I've made. Now we can start the loop for getting the actual video data. So here, I'll loop over channel. So for channel in channels, I'm going to send a request. So we'll use URL again because it should be separate from this. Actually, I'll make this a little more clear. So video API URL, just to separate it from this URL. And then I'll bring this in and it's going to take in the playlist IDs. So this time it's going to be channel.playlist ID. So this is coming from my database and this is getting the items for a particular playlist, right? So this part, I'm getting the actual data of the playlist. And for the results, it's going to be the type of snippets. And then for the max results, I want 50. So by default, it's 5, but I want the max. So max results equals 50. And then finally, I need the API key. So let me just copy this and add it onto the end here. So now I have that URL crafted. And now there's another part to consider. So because I might need to call this request multiple times, I need to create another loop, right? And each iteration of the loop will go to the next page. So I mentioned the next page token before. Like if we go here and we go back, we see next page token. That will allow us to get the next page of results. So by passing this token to the following requests, we will get the next page. So that's basically what I have to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'll create a while loop and I'm going to send the request in the while loop. So, video response kind of separated from this response since I have 2 requests in the same function. I'll do requests.get and then pass in this video API URL here. And then I'll get the results. I'll just say video response equals results, or results equals video response, and then JSON. And now this is where I want to loop over the results. So we can say for item in results, I want to basically get a list of the video IDs. So what I'll do here is I'll create an empty list. We'll call this video IDs, right? So I have the video IDs here, and then I want to append the video ID from the playlist. So what I'm doing here is I'm querying the playlist and I'm getting a list of all the video IDs within that playlist, right? So I'm going to add those IDs to this list here because I want to use these IDs to query the YouTube API one final time to get the actual data for each individual video. So multiple steps here, video IDs dot append, and I want to take from the snippet, I want to take the resource ID and the video ID, right? So all these are going to be videos, so I'm getting the video ID. And then I want to create a string. So video IDs string. It's the best name I can think of. And then I want to join all the video IDs. Okay, so it's going to loop over the results from the playlist, put them in this list, and then I'm going to generate a comma separated string of video IDs so I can send this to the next request. And just thinking about this, I think I should call this playlist response, right? And playlist API URL to kind of separate it from the videos. So playlist here, and yeah, I think that makes more sense. So the next part is I need to send a request to the API one more time within this loop. And just looking at those loops, you can tell it's going to take a long time. And just note that there are better ways of doing this. Like you should use like an async approach to do something like this since you're sending so many requests and you're waiting on the responses to come back. But for the purposes of this video, I'm intentionally doing it in the more straightforward way of just using loops. So it takes a while. If I did it with async, they will all take like half a second, and that's not very interesting. So with this can take like 10 seconds. It can take 30 seconds, a minute, however many videos I have from the channels that I add. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about what I'm doing in this video. So here I want to create this video API URL, and I'll just bring this in. And the ID in this case will be this videos ID string. For the part, we want snippet and statistics. And then we need the API key. So take this and just add it onto the end just like that. And then we can get the response. So we can say videos response is going to be requests.get and then this video API URL. And then we want to loop over the results. So we can say for item in video response .json, and then we want to get the items. Here we're going to actually insert the data into the database. So these are the individual videos, and we're going to put them in the video here. All right, so titles, views, likes, YouTube ID. So let me just get all of those. So we'll say video equals video, and we'll start with title and views. So title is going to be equal to item, snippet, and then title. We have views. Views are going to be equal to item, statistics, and then view counts. Next thing we want likes. So views, item, statistics. This should be like counts. Let me just verify this. Let me go over to videos, lists, and then we can just see what this looks like. The video resource. And then we're looking in statistics. Okay, so view count, like count, yeah. We want the YouTube ID. And I put views twice. This should be likes. So we want the YouTube ID. So this is going to be item. And then just looking here. Looking for the actual ID for this. So let's see, content details, maybe status, statistics, file details. Like I'm overlooking something. So publish that. Oh, the ID is outside of that. Okay, that's why it's a little confusing. So it's not in the snippet. It's just ID, just like that. And then finally, we have date published. So date published will be publish that. So snippet, publish that. Item, snippet, and then published at, just like that. And then finally, we need the channel that this is associated with. So channel equals, and because we're looping over channel here, we can just say channel equals channel. And then that should be it for the video. So I have a feeling something's going to fail here, but we'll address that when we get to it. So we just save that. And then we need to deal with the next page thing. So I can go down here and I can say if next page token. So this will indicate to us if there is a next page. So if this exists. So if this is in the results. So let's see. We have the results here. Yeah, so if this is in results, I want to create another URL for the playlist. So playlist API URL. So I'll just put that here. So I'm going to be updating this, and notice how this is outside of the while loop. So when this gets updated, it's going to come back to this while and then send the request again using the new URL. So this is going to be almost exactly the same as this one. And I think I copied too much. So it's going to be the same as this one. So we can just bring it in here. The only difference is it's going to have this token. So I can just add this on the end. We can say page token is going to be equal to results next page token, just like that. And then for the else case where there is no next page token, we're just going to break out of the loop. So break. Okay, so this will add all the information to the database. And actually, let's go ahead and do this now because I don't have the progress bar set up. So what I'll do is I'll set up the endpoint to call this, and hopefully it adds it to the database. And if there are any errors, we can fix that before we work on the progress bar. So let me go over to views. And what I'll do is I'll import this particular task. So I'll go here. So from .task import get video stats. And then what I'll do is I'll create an endpoint, and it's basically going to start that task. So we'll call this generate, and it takes in requests. And also, no, it doesn't need to take in anything because of the way that I'm going to set this up. So it's just going to get everything. And since there's only one user, I just want to delete everything. So yeah, what I'll do here is in the task, before I actually create the videos, what I'll do is I'll just delete them all. So video.objects.all.delete, right? So this way it's going to clear out the data first, and then it will generate it. So I have some invalid syntax here on line 15. Here, you know what? I'll just make this a list just so I don't have any issues. So this should work as a list comprehension. And then we have while. So it looks like something isn't getting terminated before the while. Oh, this should be while true, right? Yeah. So now we have this f string, the next page token, the playlist API. Oh, this part results next page token. I guess the brackets. So what I'll do is I'll create a variable called next page token, and then I'll just put it up here. So next page token equals results next page token. And now everything is working again. So I'll go back to views, I'll go to generate, and the only thing I need to do here is just initiate the task. So to do that in Celery, I just call the function and then .delay, right? So this .delay will mean it will send it to Celery to run, and then it returns a task for me. And what I'll do is I'll render something. So like I said, with HTMX, everything needs to return HTML. So what I can do is I can return the progress bar. So partials progress bar.html. I don't actually have this yet, but I'll create it in a moment. So for the context, all I need to do is pass the task ID and a value for the progress. So the task ID is going to be task.taskID. And I'll use this task ID to get the status of the task, right? So every time I query the database looking for the task, I need the task ID, and then that will return like how much of the task has been complete. And I'll show you that momentarily. And I'll also have a value. So this is just the value of the progress bar, and it will be set to 0 initially. So now let me go ahead and create this partial for the progress bar. So progress bar.html doesn't return anything, but it will eventually. I just want to make sure that the task works so I can generate the results, and then we'll be able to see it on the front end. So I need to trigger this. If I go to results, I have this generate button, and this generate button is what I want to use to trigger the process. So here on the button, I want to use an hx-get, and it's going to be the generate URL. So I haven't created the URL yet, but I'll create it in a moment. It doesn't have any arguments. And then the target, so hx target, is going to be this. So I call it table stuff. That's not a really good descriptive name. I'll just call it results section. And the target will be that. I think I want a dash here. That looks a little bit better. So results section, and then that. And then finally, I need the swap. This swap will basically replace everything inside. So inner HTML is the default, so I don't need to add anything there. So let me go ahead and create the URL for this for generate. So path generate. And then we have views.generate and name equals generate, right? So that will just generate those video results for me. So that should be it. Let me just type progress bar here. So we don't actually have the progress bar, but like I said, I want to make sure that the task works well. So now I need to get Celery up and running. So there are two parts. I need to start my Docker Compose stuff. So I need to start RabbitMQ and Redis. So I'll open up another terminal, and I'll say Docker Compose up. And I need to start my Docker desktop. So let me just do that. So that's going to take a moment to boot. While I wait, what I'll do is I'll just delete everything from my channels, because I added 3 channels and I don't want the first run to take forever. So I'm just going to delete everything and then re-add 1 channel. So delete from app channel. And then now if I select star from app underscore channel, we see there's nothing. Okay. So now I should be able to use Docker Compose. So I need to close that one and then start a new one. And then Docker Compose up. And there we go. It's starting. And I also need to start Celery. So to do that, I need to start my virtual environment because I installed Celery here. I need to get into my project, and then I can do Celery-A, and then the name of my project, which is Video Tracker, and then start a worker, and then I want the information to appear to be just info. Can run this, and We know it's working when we can see the name of the function that we created in the tasks. So get video stats here. This is getting picked up because I have this decorator. If I were to remove this decorator, then this would just be like a regular function. But once you add this decorator, it becomes a Celery task that you can call. So I have this get video stats. This debug task comes from the Celery file that I had. That's just to make sure everything's working. And it basically, as long as you don't see any red here, everything is working correctly. Okay, so now if I go back to views, remember I want to call this generate. It's going to start the process and get the task ID and send it to the context. So what I want to do here is I need to add a channel because I removed the first one. So I'll do pretty printed, search, and something failed. So let's go over to the first one. And it looks like there was just an error with the API. So let me just go ahead and refresh this. And hopefully that was a temporary error. So search. And yeah, I'm thinking I'm having some momentary issues. So what I can do is I can take a break and then come back when the API is working again. It's, I guess, just bad timing. Okay, it turns out I had internet connection issues, but this should work now. So we'll search for pretty printed. And then I'll add it. And now I'll hit the generate button and hopefully something happens. So of course, I don't see anything. Well, probably an error somewhere. So let's see. It was posted to add channel, but we don't see a post for generate. So let me just make sure I refresh this and then hit generate. And yeah, nothing happens. So let's see what's going on. So if I go to the console, we have target error for generate. So that's easy to fix. And here I'm just missing the hash. So now if I refresh and then do this, okay, so now we know it sent it. We have this progress bar here. So that's just the text that I put there, which is just temporary. We have the generate here. And then if we go to the part with Celery, we see all this red, which means something messed up. So let's see line 35 in get video stats. So if we go down here to line 35, this is saying that this must be an integer, right, for the indices. So for item, yeah, so we're looping over results. Oh, I'm missing the items here. So just items like that, because this is the entire results dictionary. Basically, I need to get the items out of here. So let's try that again. Let's hit generate, go back, and then we get the same error. So line 35. So this definitely can't be the same issue. So we have items and results, and then we're just saying here. So what I'll do is I'll just print out what an item looks like so we can kind of see it. Oh, actually, I think I know what it is. Every time I make a change, I need to restart the server, the Celery worker process. So I'll just restart. And now let me try to do this. So generate. Okay, so we have a different error. So this is good. So line 43, we have the video response. So I just add an extra S there. So let me go ahead and restart this. Generate again. And now we have a validation error. Okay, so this needs to be converted to a date. So let's see, where is it? So we'll say date published equals this. And then we'll import from date time. So let's see, where is it? Where can I put this? From date time, import date time. And then I can do datetime dot string parse time and just put the format. So we have year. I always forget these formats. So let's see. I always use a certain resource. I'll just try this one. Okay, yeah, I was thinking of a different one. So we have %y for the year somewhere. And then the month is a number. So %m, lowercase m, and then the day, which will be %d. Okay, so we have %y dash %m %d, and then we have the letter t, and then followed by hour, minutes, or yeah, hour, minute, and then seconds. So capital H, capital M. So capital H dash capital M, or colon here, and then a colon after the M, and then we have the microseconds or the seconds. Okay, so capital S, and then the letter Z, right? So this will parse this and create a datetime object, and then we should be able to pass that directly to here. Even though it's a date field, it should convert it properly. So let's go ahead and try that again and see what other errors we get generates. And this time it received it, and because I have no errors, that means it's running. So I'll just give this a moment, and we see succeeded in about 8 seconds. So if I go and run the same query, we see I have the one channel, and then from app underscore video, I have a bunch of results. So these are the titles of my videos. I have a little over 400 videos that are public right now. So we have the name. So this is the oldest video that I have available. We have the number of views, right? So 6,800 views, 23 likes. Here's the YouTube ID. It was published November 19th, 2015. And then it is associated with channel ID number 4. Okay, so now we know that the task is working. Next, what I want to do is I want to keep track of the progress. So what I can do in here is I can instantiate the progress recorder. So I can just do that here. So progress recorder equals progress recorder. And then you have to pass in self. So it comes from here, which comes from bind. And then I'm going to use this progress recorder inside of the loop. So if I just go to a place in the loop, somewhere in the while loop, I can put this at the end, but basically I want to put it before this check to break out of the loop. So I'll put progress recorder dot set underscore progress. And I need a couple of things. So first I need the current iteration. So I'll just put I, and then I need the total. So total requests, right? So each time this loop runs, this I will increment by 1. I suppose the easiest way to do this is just to have like the I instantiated outside of the loop. So I equals 0. And then we have I here, and then somewhere I need to increment I, and I can just do that right before. So I plus equals 1, right? So basically what this means is every time this while loop runs, it's going to increment this by 1. And this represents the percentage done of the total. So imagine this loop is going to run 50 times. It will start off as 1, so it would be 2%. 1 divided by 50, and then 4%, 6%, 8%, and so on. And then, of course, if the total requests were to change for a different one, then this would be different, of course. But this is all I need. I can also put like a little hint if I need to debug this. So for iteration and then I. Okay, so that's all I need to set the progress inside of the task. So let me just close that. Now for the progress bar, I need to get that progress as it's happening. So if I go here, I have the progress bar and it starts off as 0. So let me go ahead and create that progress bar. And once again, I'll bring in the HTML for this. And I'll paste it in here. So this is pretty simple. So we just have this progress bar. We have the color. So I don't like is warning. Let's go ahead and figure out a better color for the progress bar. So what would be a good color? Let's use this green. So is success. So is success. And then the value is going to be that number. So it can be like 0, 1. This is going to represent the percentage done. And then it just gets added here again. This is how it works. You won't actually see that percent though. And then we need to add in the HTMX stuff. So for something like progress, it's actually like a different technique as opposed to the other ones. So the idea is this progress bar is going to get replaced over and over again. Right. So first, let's think, where are we going to send this request? So if I just do, I can put this on the container, right? So hx gets, I'm going to send a get request to, get progress. Let's just call it that. So URL get progress. And I want to pass in the task ID, right? So I'm going to have a task ID here. And then I need a target. So where is this going to go? Well, what I want is I want this entire results section to disappear while the results are loading. So I'll use this results section here. And then finally, what is the trigger for this? So the trigger is actually going to be on load. So this is what I was talking about, how this is load special. So this is going to trigger on load, right? So every time this loads, it's going to send a request to get the progress, and it's just going to return this again. But I don't want it to happen immediately, because if that happens, then it's just going to be a ton of requests, and that's not going to be very helpful. So what I can do is I can put a delay on this. Let's say I want to get this every 300 milliseconds. So it's going to load, it's going to wait 300 milliseconds, and then it's going to send the request. And then the response is going to come back with the hopefully updated progress bar with a new value. And we'll see the value increment across the progress bar as it goes along. Right, so now we just need to create this get progress. So we'll call this get progress. It takes in a request, and it's also going to take in a task ID. We need that task ID to get the percentage done. So what I need to do is I need to import from my Celery progress library in addition to Celery. So we'll say from Celery.results, we need to get async results so I can look at the status as it's happening. And then we can import from Celery progress backend progress. So this will allow us to convert this async result into something that we can easily read. So now inside of get progress, we're going to get that progress. So progress is going to be progress, and then we're going to have the async results with the task ID. So we take the task ID, we use it to get the result from Celery, and then we convert that to a progress object so it's easier to read. And then what we want is like, let's say the percent complete, right? So we can use this and we can look inside of progress. So progress get info, and we're going to get progress and then percent, right? And this percent should be an integer. I don't really care about like 2.5%. It can either be 2 or 3%. So I'll convert that to an integer. And then what I want is, I guess a simple way is I can say if percent complete is equal to 100, I'm going to do one thing. If it isn't, I'm going to do another thing. There's also like an actual complete thing, but since I have the percent here, I'll just use 100. What I want to do is I want to return the render for the results section. So we have results.html, right? And I need this results. So we have results equals video.objects. And what I want to do is I want to order by like the views. So order by views in descending order. And I want the first 50. Right, because later we're going to have the infinite scroll, but for now we just want the first 50. So we're just going to return this here. So in the case where the progress is 100%, what's going to happen is the progress bar is going to go away. The results section is going to be replaced with results, right? And it should be outer HTML, like thinking about it, right? Because let me think. We have results section here. We're going to generate it. Yeah, so we want this to be we want it to be inner, right? And then the results section is going to come here. So this is actually going to not be exactly what we want. So I can come back to that in a moment once I think about that more and we see it working. But we have the results here, and then we're just querying from the database. And this should be return. And then in the case where we still have the progress going on, what we want to do is we want to simply pass the value and the task ID back. So task ID is going to be the task ID that was passed in. And then the value, which is what I called it, is going to be %complete, right? And then we can return render requests and then partials progress bar .html with the context. So here I actually need partials before results. And just for consistency, I'll use context here and then context here. Okay. And then that should be it. Like I said, I have to figure out the whole results thing in a moment, but all of this should still work. So let's see if we can see the progress bar. So let's go here, refresh the page. So I'm expecting that when I click on this button, I'll see the progress bar and it's going to change as the progress happens. And this took about 8 seconds. So let's see if it works. And I already have an error. So let's go back and see what the error is. Oh, I need to create the URL for get progress. So path get progress, and then views get progress, name get dash progress. So I'll make this a dash. And now I should be able to do this. Generate, and it doesn't work again. Okay, so reverse for get progress. Oh, we're missing the task ID. So if I go back to the URL, we have task ID, the slash, and now let's see if it works. So generate, okay. So we see the progress bar, but we don't see any progress. So we see that the requests are getting sent. It's just not updating the progress bar properly. So let's go to views and let's take a look at get progress. We have the progress bar, we have %complete, we have the task ID. So we see that this is happening. So let's see. Let's try printing out the task ID and let's try printing out the %complete. So when I do this again, we can see the data as it's happening. So 0, 0, 0. Okay, so that's obviously not good. So let's see if everything is working in Celery, and it looks like it is. So perhaps the update's not working correctly. So let's go over to the tasks and let's take a look. So we have the progress recorder set progress. We have I plus equals 1. We have total requests, which is here. So total requests should be updated properly. So let's see if this is being updated properly. So total requests. So let's initiate this. We need to restart the server. So initiate this. And then let's look at the Celery part and let's see if we can see the progress. So here I need to restart the Celery server because I just made a change to the task. And perhaps that's the thing that I forgot to do in the first place. So let's generate. Okay, so yeah, now it's working. So I think it's just because I didn't restart the Celery server. Like I said, I'm so used to the automatic restart that it works. But we see that the generate button works, like the progress bar is going and then the results come. So now let's update the actual results. Let's go over to results here And then let's see. So we'll have video name, or let's say video title. And then we have views, likes, date published. So we have views, likes, date published. Anything else? Views, likes, date published. No. The YouTube ID is going to come into play for the link. So the first one is the channel. So let's just do this 5 times. So the first one's going to be the channel name. Right? So this is going to be a video object here that we're looping over. So results.title. And if we just refresh the page, we see the channel name. So it's actually the title should go here. And this should be the channel. So result.channel.name. And now if we do this, we should see pretty printed for all of them because it's only my channel. Okay. So now for the rest of these, I should be able to get the values. So I have views, we have likes, and then we have the dates published. So if I go here, refresh, okay, we see views, we see likes, we see date published. Here, it's not in the correct order because this is on the homepage. So I'll just do this order by and then go to the index, just like that. And now I see the views, and this is where I want to bring in humanize. If I go to results and this do for views, we have int comma, and we can also do it for the likes as well. In comma. Now we see likes. Okay, so this part is working. We see the date published. Last thing we want to do is we want to create a link to the video. So just do this. So this should be youtube.com/watch v equals the video ID. So result dot, what do I have here? YouTube ID. So result dot YouTube ID. And that should be it for the URL. So now we can click on this. So getting started with the Django REST framework, we can open it here and we see that that's the video that we see. So all of these links should go directly to the video. So that's it for the results. Now the next thing we want to work on is the infinite scroll. So right now I only have the first 50 results, but I have a little over 400 videos. So I want to be able to use the infinite scroll and get all of those videos. So once again, HTMX can do that. So what I'll do is I'll create an endpoint, so a view, to return the next set of rows. So get next rows, and this is going to take in a request. And basically all I need is the offset, right? So I'm going to offset by 50 each time. So the first one, the offset is 0. The second one, the offset's going to be 50, and then 100, and so on. So I'll just say offset is going to be request.get, and then offset. This needs to be converted to an integer. Right? And then we can use the same query here. So results equals this, but instead of the 50 here, or instead of the 0 here, it will be the offset. And instead of the 50, it's going to be offset plus 50. So this will give us like the next page starting from whatever the offset is. And then we can just return render request. And then this is results.html. Well, actually, no, this is not results. So I need to create like a partial for the table rows. So result row.html. And let me bring that in. Okay, so we're going to use humanize again, and then we're just generating the table rows inside of the table. That's all we need. So we can take the thing we have here, and it's basically the same. So let me just copy everything and paste it into results row, right? So we have the channel name and everything here, and this will add it to the table once this is generated. So this is going to be partials / results row. I want this to be rows instead of just row. And then the context, right? So let me just change this to result rows. And then for the context, I'll have results. And then also I want to pass in the previous offset. Well, actually the next offset. So we'll just call this next, and then we'll do offset plus 50. So now I need to think, how can HTMX be used for an infinite scroll? So the way that this works is basically when we get to the bottom of the table, so when we get down here, we want HTMX to send a request to get the next 50 rows. So how do we do that? We use a trigger called revealed. So if we go over to our results here, what we want is we want a trigger revealed to be on like the last row of the table, right? So we can do that in Django by setting. Well, before I do this, I just noticed that I'm missing a TR tag. So we want this to be on TR, the last row. Let me make sure there's a TR here. Yeah. So we want this to appear on only the last row, right? So we can put an if statement in here saying if my for loop is on the last iteration, do something. And then we have end if here. And this is where I put the HTMX of. So hx gets, I want to get the part for the, let me put a space here so that's not confusing. I want to get the next results. So I'm going to send a request to get next rows, which I'll create a URL for momentarily. But if I go to results here, this is going to be get next rows. It doesn't need to take a value, or does it? Yeah, I'll put the query string. So offset equals, and then this will be the first one. So the offset will just be 50, but for result rows, it's going to be dynamic. So this is the first generation of the first 50 results. And then after this, we have the dynamic one. So I'll do that in a moment. So that's the URL inside of hx gets. Okay, so the trigger is going to be revealed. So when the last row is revealed, we want to send a request. So revealed. So hx swap, what this is going to do is it's going to add it after this row. So hx swap, and we can say after end. So after the end of this particular row, we're going to add in the results, which will just be more rows. So we have results after end, and then that should be enough here. And then it's basically going to be the same thing in result rows. So let me just copy that and paste it here. The only difference is this offset is going to be equal to the value, right? Or not the value, but the value of the offset. So offset there. And then that should be it. So did I call it offset or did I call it next? Let's go to views. Yeah, let's call this offset. That's a better name. Okay, so now let's see. So right now, creating a to-do list app was the last one. Oh, let me add the URL before I forget. So path, views, get next rows. And then we have or this doesn't take anything. We have views, get next rows. Name is going to be get next rows. Right, so I can just copy this name, make sure it is here. Yeah, I use underscores. I want dashes. Okay, so let's see. The last one is create a to-do list app. So we'll refresh this. We have this issue because I didn't update something correctly. So let's see. We have get next rows. We have get next rows here. We have get next rows here. Okay, something just didn't update. So now let's try to go. And now it's doing the infinite scroll. So we can see I'm going much further down. We're getting more results. And then it ends at the video with the least number of views, 1,417 at the bottom. And then it stops because there are no more results in the database. Okay, so for the last thing, I just want to be able to delete a channel. So if I get tired of getting the results for this particular channel, I just want to be able to delete it. So let's work on the view first for this. We'll call this delete channel requests, and then it's going to take in a channel ID. Right, so what I want to do is simply delete that channel. So channel.objects.filter pk equals this channel ID, and then we just want to delete it. Right, pretty straightforward. And then we want to return a list of the new channels. So channels equals channel.objects.all, and then we're going to return this partial here, just like when we added a channel. So we can just do that there. I'm going to send a delete request, so I need to have a CRSF exempt on this. And then for URLs, we'll just have delete channel. So path delete channel. I need a channel ID. And then we have views.delete channel. Name is going to be delete-channel, just like that. So now we need to find where those buttons are. So we can just go here, and where is it? Each channel has a delete button. Right here is the delete button. And I just want to send a delete request to this when it's clicked. So hx delete is going to be a URL and then delete channel. And then it takes in the channel ID, so channel.id. And that should be it. So what is going to get replaced? Well, if we go back up, let's see, we have the target. Let's see, do we have a target? No. So like I said before, this is in a loop, so I don't need to add the target and the swap here. So what I'll do is I'll put it on the section, and then everything inside will inherit it. So hx target will be this channel section. So channel section. And then I want to just completely replace it, right? So I can say hx swap equals outer HTML. So if I go here and do it, now if I click this, nothing happens. So let's see, what was the error? Context is not defined. So go to views. Oh, I forgot to add this to the context. So we have channels, channels. So it should have been deleted already because it failed after the delete. So we see that it's gone, and then we see I have no data because of the cascade. So I'll search for a channel. Let's say Tech with Tim this time. Search Tech with Tim, and then I'll add pretty printed again. Okay. So now if I want to delete Tech with Tim is gone. If I want to delete pretty printed is gone. So that's it for the functionality. Before I go through one last run, let me just look at that ID thing again with the results. So let's see. We have the results section here, and it was something like with the progress bar. So what's being updated, like this is replacing the progress, the results here. So inner HTML, right? But once the progress is done, it generates the results again. So it's going to be like results inside of results, and I don't quite want that. So let's see, hx target, results section, inner HTML. Actually, this is what I want. Yeah, so this is going to delete everything inside of this div and replace it with the progress bar, right? And then once that's done, it's going to replace it. So I think one thing I can do is I can replace the outer HTML and just use results section here. So it has somewhere to go when it's done, right? So results section here, and then we have hx swap is going to be outer HTML, so it doesn't duplicate it, right? So it's going to replace this with this here, and then Yeah, I think that works. So let's go ahead and try it. So let's add a couple of channels this time. So pretty printed, and then traversy, and then generate. So we see the progress bar. Progress is moving along. It's taking a little longer because I have a second channel here. So we'll just wait for this to finish. He must have a lot of videos on his channel. So that's why it's taking so long. And I'm sure his will be at the top because he has a much bigger channel. But this is almost done. Okay. So we see here that we have his videos, and he has a few popular videos, and then you get down to mine somewhere. So we see traversy. I probably should have used a different channel. So it's kind of mixed in, but we see pretty printed here. Pretty printed. Let me add Tech with Tim because he has a big channel as well. Then let me do this. And I'll just wait, but it looks like everything is working properly. So I just want to see like videos from different channels interleaved, but other than that, like everything appears to be working properly with the Zap. And we see that I'm able to do all this without using any JavaScript at all. It's basically just understanding the patterns behind HTMX, and using those, I can accomplish a lot of things on the front end with no JavaScript, just using this library because it's pretty powerful. It doesn't apply to every single case, so you still probably need JavaScript for certain things that you want to do. But the whole idea behind this is it allows you to do things that you used to use JavaScript for, but you don't have to anymore with HTMX. So now just looking at this, we see Tech with Tim and Traversy Media, they have videos together. If I click on one of the links, like this React crash course, we see that it appears here. So everything appears to be working well. So that's it for this video. I know it was kind of long, but I wanted to show you all these things in HTMX. I hope you were able to stay and watch all the way to the end. If you have any questions about anything I've done in this video, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.